AJ, thank you again for doing this.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
I'm going to start off with a little something. Of course, I'm going to try to keep it fun.
Sure.
How does it feel to be back in the UK? Is the food better there?
You're starting out with the jokes. Now, honestly, yeah, it feels good to be home, man. I like just home comforts. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily the food. Hey, the pubs. We have good pubs, man. That's our thing. It's my thing. Yeah, no, it's nice being home, man. You know, it's Christmas time of year almost. You know, like holidays, family, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. What drew you to acting initially? Right. I've seen you on your Instagram and your Twitter. You dance, but what drew you to acting?
It's I don't really know, to be honest. It sounds cliche, but it just sort of happened by accident, really. I mean, I danced a fair bit when I was a kid to stay out of trouble. And then, yeah, I think I did like just some local amateur production of Bugsy Malone. They did a stage thing with that. I didn't want to do it, but my mum was like, "You're doing it." And I was like, "I don't want to do it." She's like, "You're doing it." And I'm like, "Ah." And, you know, around my area where I'm from, there's not really support for the art scene at all. So it's like, yeah, me being the only, probably one of the only dudes in town gave me like the lead role. And then it was like, fine, did it. And I was like, I actually quite like this, doing my terrible, at the time, really bad rendition of like a, 1920s New York accent, which was very hilarious. And I don't know, I just sort of felt like there's something about sort of being on stage and using words, not just dancing that I was used to, you know what I mean? It was like using the body, but also the voice too. And I was like, yeah, I quite like this. And then I was always big into movies too, right? So it was like, when I sort of discovered there was an avenue, there was a thing called drama school that you could audition for and go to, it became like all right, let's see where this goes. Not ever really thinking that like it's something that I could do. And then it just sort of happened that I got a job and people are like, yeah, you can do this and I'll pay you for it. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Nice. Well, it's always like, I don't know. I think it's a little surprising. Like some fans are still learning. You're not from the mean streets of Chicago, right? Like, and this is an ongoing conversation with folks in the U.S. how UK actors are effortlessly mastering U.S. accents. How did you do it?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's effortless, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. I think someone was talking about this in an interview I seen a few years ago. It was a British actor. And they did it quite succinctly. I can't remember who it was now. But they were like, as Brits, for the most part, we use our mouth a bit more when we speak, right? Whereas Americans, like, the tongue's a bit more relaxed and everything can kind of just like blur. And I think because we sometimes speak well or like, have the propensity to do so, our mouths work a little harder from like as a foundation. And then it's easier if we can just train yourself to relax it. It's easier for us to do an American accent, I think, without trying to sound too corny, but there's always that period too as well. It's like as Brits, it's like, yeah, you can do the stereotypical deep South, whatever, the really cliche Brooklyn sort of thing. And it's like, all right, well, we're not all living right by the Verrazano. Do you know what I mean? It's like the normal person. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it takes some time, but yeah, I'm work with coaches and stuff. And I'm like one of those guys too. If I'm like as a Brit, I see something on TV or stage or a movie or whatever, and I see a British actor and I know they're British playing an American. If I hear a vowel, it's off. Just one. I'm like, I just can't. I'm just taken out of the whole theater of it all. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, for me, I'm ultra paranoid at that. Like, so I just have to just lock in and just try my hardest not to be a phony. Because I know I would rinse myself if, I was fucking it up. I'd be like, it's pretending bad. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, I think we can do it, like for what I said earlier, but I feel like it does take a lot of work. I wouldn't say it's easy.
Man, I can tell your research because you're sitting here dropping landmarks to Paris. That was good. That was good. I'm hearing from audiences that From season 3 is just now coming out in the UK.
Yeah.
Is the rest of the cast jealous that you kind of get to double dip with the North American and the UK releases? Like, do you get recognized when you're out?
Yeah, I mean, I get recognized a little bit every now and again. Yeah. Like I was on the train getting home after a few beverages. Some nice fans approach. I don't know. It's weird. It's like I feel like now it's out. People are like in the UK because it was always a bit more of like, at least I noticed it. Fans in large part of our demographic, like our audience and that was hitting in North America a bit more, but it's nice to just feel it a bit when I'm at home. And largely I come home to be anonymous, right? I'm not really, it's just family and just unplugged from industry or whatever. But yeah, it's just nice. Like I wouldn't say if I don't know if my castmates care. I mean, it's like, it's all love. I don't think it's, yeah, it's chill. It's just, I'm just grateful that people give a shit and want to watch the show. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter where it is. It's just good that people care, so yeah.
We care. And I know that a lot of people who find out about the show, it's usually by word of mouth, right? It's like me going off rambling at them. You got to watch this show. You got to. Do you ever try to describe the show to someone who's never seen it?
If they ask, yeah. But I'm not really one of those guys that will go around and just start plugging my work, like, uninvited. I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, like, I do, yeah, when people are like, oh, what's that about? And like, I give them a quick skinny on it. But like, I find outside of the succinct sort of like log line, as you will, it's like, you can't really describe it as much, like, compared to if you just give it a chance to sit down and watch it, because it's like it just grows and it grows and grows every season. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite, yeah, I think the show just does itself a lot of justice just by sitting and watching it. But yeah,
absolutely. I know, and I'm sure we're obsessed with the mystery and with the characters.
Yeah.
Now that you've been a part of this show for 2 seasons, and I'm gonna beg you, can you drop some clues, man? Because we're dying over here, right? Like, we have fans out here hiring hot-thing linguists to decipher the term "ankui." I think we need all the help we can get.
Yeah. Well, so you want to know what it means? I'm pretty sure it's in the show.
Or do you have any theories as to what is going on in the mystery of your own?
They don't tell me anything, like they don't. And I've just sort of like, I've just given up trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like creatively that helps me play what I need to play, because Randall doesn't know what's going on at all. And I think I quite like working like that. The revelations that came from season 3, the finale of season 3 is like, all right, now it's on. We kind of got an idea of sort of like the origins or the reasoning behind it, but how the fuck we get out of here, who knows? But at least, if we, the characters and audiences and stuff sort of know why certain things are happening, then it's like, all right, that can maybe propel us forward a little bit to give us some sort of understanding of what's going on. But again, they didn't tell me anything, man. So I'm just like, I'm figuring it out with everybody else as well, So, yeah.
All right. My fans want me to ask this one, man. I can't talk to you and not ask this. Who is the man in yellow, and are you him?
Listen, I don't know who the man in yellow is. I'm being serious. Like, the man in yellow is the man in yellow. If I'm supposed to be the man in yellow, no one's told me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, but no, it's interesting watching that scene, man, come through. It's like, oh yeah, like it was tight. I liked it.
Have you seen that theory online at all? That folks are now assuming that Rand?
Yeah, I have. I've seen like people have written to me and said, oh yeah, I think before that they were like, oh, Randall's Martin. I'm like, is he? And they're like, oh, now he's the man in yellow. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you think, because I honestly don't know. I don't get the scripts until way late. Like, no one says anything to me, so yeah, I'm not gonna say no, but I can't say yes. So who knows? Yeah.
Have you heard any fan theories about Randall that made you just outright laugh or say that's actually a good idea?
Yeah, I don't know, mate. To be honest, I think mainly like the Martin thing. I was like, where did you get this from? Like, who told you that? Because it's wild. Like, and it's great. The fans are very creative in their theories, right? But yeah, I think that was honestly the most wild. I'm like, okay, cool. And then this is like, oh yeah, he kind of has that military swag. And then the guy said he was a Marine or something like that. And And I'm like, that's cool. I would never would have thought of that. But yeah, sure, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. So yeah.
Well, listen, the writing and your tough guy performance is honestly made Randall one of my favorite characters. I pick on him a little, but I really, really love Randall.
Hey man, like as long as he's creating some kind of reaction, then that's good, right? So.
Is Randall good? Is he bad, or is he just misunderstood?
Look, man, the thing is, I don't think in this world that's the From World, I don't think that's particularly, but like I don't know if anybody's particularly wholeheartedly evil or wholeheartedly good. I think in Randall's case, he's very pragmatic, right? And he's not been there very long. And he's a very independent person, like hot-headed, yes, but like he's the guy that will get shit done, and he's self-reliant. So I try and empathize with him in the sense of like, if it was me put in that situation, I would resist everything. I wouldn't believe anything. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't sound real, right? So it's like, people start getting shotguns, like start shooting out tires as soon as you arrive. It's like, I'm going to have a problem with every single one of you. Like, you've drank the Kool-Aid and you're nuts. And this person's trying to shoot me. So it's like, yeah, I wouldn't say he's a bad person. I'd just say he's got a bit of a tough exterior by just his life. But yeah, I think he has scope to be helpful when he feels like people deserve it. You know what I mean?
Filming in that town, right? I think I'm wondering, does it seems like it's got to be a vibe, you know what I mean? Like, does and you guys have armed guards around this town. I know people are always like scouting it out. Does filming in this type of setup help you tap into Randall's state of mind? And if so, what's that like?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's it's quite remote. We're shooting Beaverbank, in just outside of Halifax in Nova Scotia, and it's it's rugged, man. Like, the landscape's rugged. It's like it's up on a hill. The weather's extreme out there. We just shot in the winter for season 3. I mean, there's nothing around it for a while, so it's quite easy and quite bleak, honestly, to look at. So it's quite, for me, I like that. I don't really like being in the studio. I mean, it's part of the job and whatever, it's cool, but like being on location, that kind of thing, to me is like, that's the food that really helps me lock into the whole thing. That if you a little bit of imagination added into the surroundings, it just makes your life a hell of a lot easier, and at least to me anyway. Yeah,
Pretty cool. I heard, or at least that what I've getting the impression of, is that sometimes actors take parts of their characters with them, right? Like, I had the pleasure to meet Harold recently, and he gave me that energy, right? Like,
yeah.
is there any Randall energy you brought into your real life?
No, of course not. What are you talking about? I don't know. Maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, but I don't know. I feel like if you sit with the character for long enough, and we shoot for like 5 and a bit months, I guess, 6 months maybe at a time. That's a long time to sit in someone's headspace, and I'm not one of those actors. I'm not good enough. I can't just sit at home and just have a grand old time and turn up to work and just go. I can't do that. It's not how I work. I've got to, to not sound overly pretentious, but I've got to sit in it a bit. You know what I mean? So I feel like in that regard, and especially working in the genre where it's like everything is very, very extreme, there isn't really a moment where it's just sort of like, it's just a nice, lovely day. Let's chill and have a drink, or I don't know, go for it. Do you know what I mean? Something is always, you live in extremes all the time. So it's like, yeah, I feel like there are maybe intense glances and looks maybe that I might acquire to, give birth to a new resting bitch face that I may have. I don't know, maybe, but like, yeah, I can, any performer will say, you sit with something long enough, like you're kind of wearing that skin for a bit. It does take a little while to like detox out of that. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. I can kind of get it. Like, you're living with that character for so long, and it's kind of, you got to go home and find AJ again, right?
Yeah, for sure. But the caveat is, for me, it's at least, I until the season is done or whatever it is, it's like, yeah, I could have some time off or whatever, but it's like I've still got to keep the wheels turning. It's only once we've wrapped season, I get to do something else or whatever. It's like, all right, now I just cleanse the palate a little bit, as you will, you know what I mean? And then, yeah, you can just sort of return to some normalcy, whatever that means. Yeah.
Well, living in Randall's head, living in this town, this space, and from what we've seen of Randall throughout season, he's been through a lot since he got to From Town, right? He's been trying to find answers in his own way. He's been clashing with folks. He's been possessed by a cicada entity. Were there any moments on set that freaked you out?
Freak me out. I don't know. I felt like my first couple of days in season 2 was pretty intense, because I sort of came to the project super last minute, and then I hadn't seen the show or even really heard of it very much, to be honest. And then it was like, boom, you're in in this world working with these, wonderful artists. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I think we did a bit of the bus stuff, and then we were doing the scene where Randall holds up Kenny and puts the gun to his head in the diner. And I hadn't met everybody yet, and hadn't really, had a scene where it was like, all right, it's go time, And I think with that was kind of nuts, like being in everybody else's world and being in all these characters in this realm, and it was just very, very intense sort of material. It was kind of like, yeah, that was kind of a lot, but having that did make me freak out, not really, but like in terms of the sense of it being just a lot to drop into, that was a lot, and I hadn't seen any of the creature stuff actually for on purpose. I didn't want to watch any of that because Randall wouldn't know, so it's like I don't want to see that until I saw it when season 2 came out. I was like, oh shit, that's what they look like. Okay, cool, because they're pretty creepy, and that episode guys do an amazing job. Shout out to those guys. But yeah, like I guess seeing those for the first time and then just being dropped into the world very quickly was kind of daunting as well. But yeah.
How has working on this show impacted you personally, or maybe your perspective as an actor? Like you've been on Reacher, you've been in other stuff, but is From unique in that way?
Yeah, it's quite nice to be in. It's different to be in something where you don't know where it's going, like at all. I think with this kind of a genre, it really lends itself to the work we're trying to do. We're all sort of a bunch of people, like we're trying to, we're playing it from a very real perspective, with our ensemble piece with these characters that, everyday people can see themselves in or whatever. But it's like, yeah, we're all playing it very real, but it's unique in the way that, I don't have the full picture to go into it. I come from the theater, right? So I'll have like the whole picture in front of me before I start rehearsals. None of us get that with this, It's like, we could start a season, you could be dead episode 3, you wouldn't know until like, talk of the scripts coming out or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's quite, I think in this regard, it's unique and interesting. And I think it helps in a positive way to, not know where things go. And that can, I think that largely helps, at least in my case, helps my performance, because I don't want to know the answers. I want to figure out real time. Do you know what I mean? And it just makes my job all that more visceral,
Okay. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit.
Sure, brother. Yeah.
Fans keep trying to make up relationships for characters. I see this all the time. Elgin and Julie, Jade and Tabitha, so on and so on. Yeah, I need you to talk to me about what's going on with Julie and Randall. What kind of relationship do you see with these two?
Yeah. To me, like, because knowing where she's at in the show, like Julie, she's a kid, right? And to me, yeah, I feel like from Randall's perspective, it's like I'd say like trauma bonded, like they both went through that kind of possession entity thing at the end of season 2 and are sort of reeling from that and how that sort of left them. Julie's now a story walker. Who knows what that's going to do to Randall? He just tried to kill himself. Like, it's all a bit nuts, but I think for him, it's a good thing to probably. It comes from one of the most unlikely characters that would, given the time of day, or and vice versa, really. It's nice to have that kind of energy where, it's empathy. Do you know what I mean? Is it Virgin on the romantic side? I wouldn't think so, because she's a kid. Randall's like however old he is. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's just a bit. That would be strange, but I get it. It's just like people see actors and they see roles, and it's like audiences love all that kind of thing, and their imagination runs wild, and that's all well and good. But yeah, at least for me, it's like, no, I see it very much as like, I would say big brother, big sister thing, but I would say it's definitely like a trauma bond kind of thing at this point. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
I wanted to put that one to bed. It was one a little weird.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, sure.
Just a couple more.
Cool.
You kind of touched on something there, and I was curious if you could give me a little bit more insight with Randall. Like, it looked like he tried to lobotomize himself. Were there any notes or any guidance that was given to you about Randall's headspace with this season and leading up to that scene?
Not really. If I'm being perfectly honest, no. You sort of discover it as as I get the scripts, you know, we get like scripts 2 at a time and sometimes 1 at a time. You don't get it very much, like, we don't get them that far ahead of time. So it's sort of like, again, it sort of loops back to the whole sort of, it's discovery as we're going along, you know. So there wasn't ever really any discussion of that per se, which is good because, I don't know, I think if you've got like a lot, I mean, I like to work this way. If I've got a largely sort of emotional, heavily evocative scene and quite dramatic scene, within reason, it's like, if I'm just discovering it as it's happening, then it's better. So I don't, you know, there's a danger of maybe overthinking it and trying to overanalyze a thing. And it's like, you know, how do you practice trying to fry your brain? You don't. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if someone's going to try and do that, it's not a very rational thought. It's like, you know, you just got to pick up the thing, make sure it's turned on and do it, you know. And it's like, you know, and I feel like with the way Randall sort of developed that season is like, you know, he's obviously heavily affected, but, you know, he's not the kind of guy to sit there and talk about his feelings with people because A, why would he trust others with those? And B, like, fuck everybody else. They're all nuts, you know. That's how he, right? Like, I'm in a crazy place, so I don't need this community. Let's, you know, walk hand in hand into the fight. Like, no, fuck that. I'll need to do my thing. And but yeah, so it's kind of like that whole repression for me. Then when it comes to, you know, his sort of final scene of the season, his final part of his journey that season, where he's like trying to do that, it's like he's at his wit's end, you know. He's come in like this is sort of, you know, this machismo sort of like pragmatism, like, you know, don't touch my shit, I'll smack the shit out of you. Like, this is, I do my thing, fuck you, you're all lying to me. And then flipped it on its head and he's like, oh yeah, he's like just being completely broken in the space of like a season and a bit. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like it's quite an interesting thing to get involved with for sure. Yeah.
One last question now, and I'll wrap.
Sure.
We've seen you in Slasher, right? We've seen you in Reacher. Heck, you were even in Beacon 23.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Are there any exciting projects or roles that you can tease for us?
Season 4 of this, you know, but you know, I just directed a short of my own that I wrote. It's it's about these 2 tap dancing brothers that it's a bit of a comeback story. It's semi-autobiographical, so I'm developing that right now. We just made the short and we're awaiting our festival run with that. And yeah, man, so other than that, and from just keeping it easy and seeing what happens, man, you know.
I love that. I love that a lot. Make your own projects. That's how you get the ball rolling. Thank you so much for that. All right, well, AJ, thank you so much. I know you're busy. I'm really appreciative of your time. Thank you, man. This was an awesome experience. I hope to speak to you again when we get up to season 4.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, bro. You take care.
All right. You have a great happy holidays to you too. Bye.
Ciao. All right.